Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So we've got some brand new Terraria 1.4.5 spoilers, so as always, let's jump into it. First off, somebody asked Red and said, can you make it so that you can find deer thing in ice chests so that new players can actually come across Deerclops? And Red responded, that's not a bad idea. Now I actually really like the idea of this because whenever a friend of mine plays Terraria and I know they've played a previous update but they don't read the wiki a lot, I always ask when they're done, did you fight Queen Slime? Did you fight Empress of Light? And did you fight Deerclops? And the answer that I usually get is they fought Queen Slime because they did find the summon in the Hallowed, but they skip Empress of Light and they skip Deerclops because they didn't know they were in the game. Next up, Red put up a post that said, make of this what you will, and included is a new, what I believe to be, vanity accessory. And this would actually line up with the spoiler we spoke about in the last video, as we saw Loki's developer set have a heart crest and these heart glasses. So I imagine this is the accessory that caused that, or it's part of a larger heart collection. Next up, somebody wrote to Red and said, hey Red, I wanted to ask if we could possibly get a new use for life fruit in 1.4.5 maybe. And Red responded and said, shh, you know too much. Next up, somebody asked, are there any new music tracks this time around? And Red responded and said, there might be. Next up, somebody said, I wonder, is it possible to add notes to your character to your creation so you would know what to play as without adding something like Slayer, World A, World B? And Red responded, this is actually a pretty solid idea. I have the same struggle with my 100 characters and worlds. No promises, I'll think about looking into the workload required. Now this is actually an idea that was brought up before 1.4.4. We spoke about it on the channel and I love the idea, especially because for me, most of my characters are called Chippy and they look like the same character. Now I think the original idea we spoke about was adding a little stamp to your players and to your world. So you could add like a little star stamp to your player and then do the same to the world that that player goes with, so it's easier to navigate. One thing I actually do is every time there's an update, I archive all of my players and worlds onto an external hard drive, and then I just wipe them and play Terraria fresh every update. Next up, somebody wrote a post to Red and said, I will not stop until the plotted trees the Dryad sells in hard mode are available in pre-hard mode instead. Other than the Hallowed variants, which should only be accessible in hard mode, this is my one desire. And Red responded, I'll look into it. I'll be honest, I don't buy these too often because I'm not a master builder, but if you are a master builder, what are your thoughts on this? Leave me a comment down below. Next up, somebody said, Red, I'm still super sad you didn't decide to add wormhole potions and potions have returned to the shelf mode. And Red responded, we have made both potions easier to acquire though. And this makes me super happy because the majority of the time, if you join a friend in multiplayer and they've been playing in single player for a while, they're not going to have any wormhole potions, and if they're also not the player to have fishing spots set up, setting up wormhole potions it could be a faff, so I'm glad it's been altered a little bit. Now, it's been a while since I showed this graph, but over the past 28 days, 71% of our views have actually come from non-subscribers. And so, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. It's the best way to keep up to date with all the latest Terraria news. Next up, we got a post from Red that said, I have hidden a spoiler deep in the forums. Good luck finding it. Now, as someone who loves talking about spoilers, I absolutely loved this, and I really hope Red does it again in the future. After his post, I started theorizing what it could potentially be. I wrote a post that said, I've been trying to think about how it was hidden. Number one, it's a post from a newer account, maybe an alt. And number two, Red has gone back and edited an older post of his to include it, and therefore it wouldn't show up on the recent activity tab. And it turns out it was actually a combination of the two. It was an older post that was edited, and it was done by an alt account as well. And after only 2 hours of searching, the spoiler was found by Russ Gus Doodles, and it was actually really interesting how they found it. They definitely thought smart about this. They wrote, I went to the URL of Red's goose image, and then I decreased the number at the end of the URL to find it. I have no idea where the image is actually hidden. But after only 10 minutes, Russ also found the location of the spoiler by simply searching for the image's number. And it turned out that Red gave the spoiler to Nightleon, who went back to one of his posts from 2015 and edited it, and here is that spoiler. And finally, after years of people asking, we now have a Moonlord shirt in 1.4.5. we did know that this was hopefully on the way, but we can finally see it in action. Now, I did see a portion of the community a little confused by this. Some people thought it was Moonlord armor, but for those that don't know, they added the Moonlord mask a while ago. In 1.4, we got Moonlord's legs because of the memes, but we didn't have a shirt to go with it, and here it is. Now, the final thing we have to talk about is the tree versus axe war. Now, it's been a while since we last spoke about this, and in that time, the war waged on, well, until some really nice fan art was shown of Senax with tree digit. And this really opened up the idea of a spruce. Now, admittedly, the spruce was thrown around for a couple of days before anything substantial happened, but then we saw a tweet from Senax that said, "My dearest axe-wielding maniacs, Red has proposed a spruce that I find acceptable. Would you lay down your axe and rejoin the trees for the following? Number 1, an axe fairy pet, and number 2, an axorang that is capable of chopping wood when thrown." And after 4,042 votes, I accept 1 with an 82.8% victory. And because of the shenanigans, we now have a brand new pet and a brand new boomerang as well. And also Red's boulder. And that's it for today. Get subscribed if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.